When I think of McDonald's, I always remember the golden arches and happy kids with their happy meals. Never in a million years would I have thought that one evening at our local McDonald's would turn my world upside down. All we wanted was some fast food, but what we got was a tale that haunts me to this day. Honestly, never thought I'd be writing about this, but here I am. My name's Ben. I'm just your average Joe, work a 9 to 5, go to the gym now and then, and enjoy a good burger once in a while. So, one evening, after a long, tedious shift, my buddy Jake and I figured we'd head to McDonald's for some grub. You know, the usual post-work drill. This McDonald's in Lexington was our spot. Over the years, we'd made countless memories here, birthdays, after games, and even a couple of sad ones after breakups. Nothing significant. Just two dudes trying to find some comfort in fries and burgers. It was a relatively calm night, about 9 p.m. The air outside was heavy, hinting at a storm soon, so there weren't many folks around. A few teens were huddled in one corner, laughing and pointing at their phones, probably some meme or TikTok. Then there was this family of 4, kids being a little noisy, parents looking like they'd had a long day. After ordering, we chose our usual spot, a corner booth by the window, from where you could watch the cars zooming past. We were halfway through our meal when Jake nudged me discreetly, nodding subtly towards a group of guys about our age, maybe a bit younger. "Hey, Ben," Jake whispered, his voice barely audible. "Isn't that dude from that video?" Confused, I followed his gaze, trying to figure out which of the 4 guys he was referring to. "What video are you talking about?" He looked at me like I lived under a rock. "Man, the viral one. The dude doing those crazy parkour stunts downtown?" Looking again, I noticed one of them did seem familiar. He had a peculiar tattoo on his forearm, a snake wrapped around a dagger. Recalling the video Jake was referencing, it clicked. That was the guy. We continued eating, but now with a lingering curiosity about the group. They seemed average but were unusually quiet, only occasionally murmuring among themselves. And that's when the oddities began. They'd frequently glance outside, almost as if they were expecting someone or something. The evening took its time, but the atmosphere inside the McDonald's was starting to feel a bit tense. Maybe I was just being paranoid. But then, I noticed the man with the tattoo, clutching something beneath the table. Being the naturally curious guy I am, I tried to angle my view to see what the tattooed guy was gripping. At first, it seemed like nothing, but after a few minutes, I caught a faint glint of metal. I nudged Jake, trying to signal him discreetly with my eyes. Jake, being Jake, didn't get it at first. He gave me this "what's wrong with you" look. But when he finally saw the subtle shimmer of metal under the table, his laid-back demeanor changed. "Think we should get out of here?" Jake murmured, trying to keep his voice as nonchalant as possible. Before I could respond, the entrance door chimed, drawing everyone's attention. 3 figures, silhouetted against the outside lights, stood in the doorway. They wore hoodies pulled up over their heads, shielding their faces. The tension in the air became palpable. Conversations around us muted. The kids, who were previously being a tad noisy, went silent, picking up on the adults' unease. The 3 newcomers moved in synchrony, their steps eerily in rhythm, and made a beeline for the table with the tattooed guy and his friends. They didn't order, they didn't look around. Their focus was solely on that table. The guy with the tattoo stood up to greet them, but there were no friendly hugs or handshakes. Just a stiff exchange of nods. My heart rate picked up. This wasn't a casual meet-up. There was business being done, and whatever it was, it felt shady. Jake and I tried to act uninterested, diving into a conversation about some random work topic, but our focus was on the 7 men now gathered around the table. Suddenly, one of the hoodie guys leaned in, his voice barely audible, but with the quietness in McDonald's, his words carried. got what we came for?" Tattoo guy responded with a nod and subtly slid a small package across the table. Whatever was happening, it was clear it wasn't your regular fast food transaction. We both knew we should mind our business. But something about the whole scenario was off, and an unsettling feeling gnawed at my gut. A few moments later, as the group seemed deep in their dealings, a loud bang echoed from the outside, startling everyone inside. As soon as the bang resonated, the lights inside McDonald's flickered momentarily, and a chorus of car alarms began sounding outside. The teens in the corner let out a surprised yelp, and even the weary parents snapped their heads towards the window. Amid the commotion, the group of 7, surprisingly, remained calm, almost too calm. It seemed like they were accustomed to unpredictability, or maybe they were expecting it. Jake whispered, "Was that a gunshot?" I didn't answer immediately, trying to process the events unfolding. "Could be a car backfiring. Happens sometimes, especially with old models," I replied, attempting to reassure both Jake and myself. But deep down, I knew the sound was too sharp for a mere car mishap. The McDonald's staff seemed equally puzzled and concerned. A young employee, probably in her late teens, slowly approached the entrance, peering cautiously outside. What she saw made her freeze. Jake and I exchanged anxious glances. We couldn't see from our angle, but the girl's reaction was telling enough. Before we could even think of our next move, a man's voice boomed from the entrance, "Everybody, stay where you are." The declaration was commanding, authoritative. We all turned to see a man in a uniform, a police officer. He was followed by 2 others, hands resting near their holstered guns, eyes scanning the establishment. It was a standoff. While the rest of us were trying to process the sudden police presence, the group of 7 immediately reacted. The tattooed man reached under the table, his movements quick, but not quick enough. "Hands where I can see them," yelled one of the officers. There was a chilling sternness in his voice. The restaurant was silent except for the low hum of the air conditioner and the distant sound of sirens approaching. We were all held in suspense, waiting for someone to make a move, praying it wouldn't escalate. Finally, after what seemed like hours, the tattooed man slowly raised his hands, revealing a small pistol. The scene was surreal, like something out of a movie. A regular evening at McDonald's had taken a nightmarish turn. Jake and I were just 2 guys, caught in the middle of what seemed like an undercover operation gone south. We kept our heads down, hoping to stay out of the line of fire. Suddenly, another loud noise, this time from the kitchen. In the chaos, someone had tried to make an exit through the back. 2 officers sprinted in that direction, leaving the remaining officer with the challenging task of keeping an eye on the now divided group. With the attention momentarily diverted, one of the hoodie-clad guys made a run for the entrance. He was fast, almost reaching the door, but not fast enough. The officer tackled him just as he was about to break free, the 2 of them crashing into a nearby table, scattering trays and drinks everywhere. The situation was quickly spiraling out of control. Amidst the chaos, the rest of the patrons in McDonald's were trying to find cover. The teens huddled together beneath their table, while the parents shielded their children as best as they could. Fear was painted on every face. It was evident none of us had ever expected our regular dining spot to turn into a crime scene. Jake and I had instinctively ducked down in our booth, our heads barely peeking over the tabletop. We could hear muffled shouts, the scuffling of shoes, and the occasional clang of something being knocked over. We exchanged anxious glances, silently communicating our mutual hope that it would all end without anyone getting seriously hurt. The officer who had tackled the escapee was now handcuffing him. He was young, probably in his early 20s, and looked like he was just as scared as the rest of us. He kept glancing over at the tattooed man, perhaps seeking some kind of reassurance. Meanwhile, in the kitchen area, sounds of struggle persisted. It was evident that whoever had tried to flee was putting up a fierce fight. but the advantage of numbers was with the police. Soon, the sounds of resistance ceased, replaced by the unmistakable click of handcuffs. Back in the dining area, the remaining members of the group were now being detained. The tattooed man, still with that steely gaze, was the last to be handcuffed. Even in the face of the law, he radiated an unsettling calmness. As he was let out, he locked eyes with Jake for a brief moment. There was no malice, no threat, just a cold, unreadable expression. As sirens grew louder and more officers poured into the establishment, the reality of what had transpired began to settle. Jake and I, along with the other patrons, were being interviewed by the officers, recounting what we'd seen. Through the murmurs and fragmented conversations, we pieced together the story. The group had been involved in a series of illegal activities across town. The tattooed man was their leader, the mastermind. The video Jake had referenced earlier was a cover, a distraction that shifted focus from their illicit operations. The parkour stunts, while real and impressive, were merely a smokescreen. The package that had been handed over during their McDonald's meeting was evidence of their latest endeavor, a small cache of stolen items. The officers had been trailing them for weeks, waiting for the right moment to make their move. Jake and I were finally allowed to leave after giving our statements. As we walked out, the once familiar glow of the golden arches seemed different. It no longer signified a place of comfort and memories, but a stark reminder of the unpredictability of life. Walking to our cars, we couldn't help but glance at the parking lot. There, amidst the flashing police lights, were several people, likely members of the gang, lying on the ground, badly injured from the earlier altercation and subsequent attempted escape. In the days that followed, the events at McDonald's were all anyone could talk about in Lexington. Local newspapers and TV stations covered the story extensively, dissecting every detail of that fateful evening. Social media was abuzz with posts, comments, and speculations. It felt surreal that Jake and I had found ourselves smack in the middle of it all. We both took a day off from work, trying to process everything. The trauma of what could have been, a bullet going astray, a hostage situation, or worse, weighed heavily on our minds. Jake called me the next morning. "Dude, you up for a chat?" "Maybe at a Starbucks this time," he chuckled, trying to make light of the situation. I agreed, needing the company and the change of setting. As we sat down with our coffees, the conversations around us were filled with bits and pieces about the McDonald's incident. Some folks seemed to exaggerate the details, while others discussed the heroics of the police. Through it all, we realized how stories change and evolve as they're passed on, often straying far from the truth. Jake took a deep breath. "You know, Ben, I've been thinking. That could have been our last meal. Makes you look at life a bit differently, huh?" I nodded, taking a sip of my drink. "Yeah. It's strange how routine, mundane moments can turn into life-altering events." For the next couple of hours, we reminisced about our school days, our families, past relationships, dreams, and aspirations. The conversation drifted away from the grim incident, focusing instead on memories and plans for the future. It was therapeutic, reminding us of the fragility and beauty of life. A few weeks later, the McDonald's reopened. There was a ceremony to honor the bravery of the officers and the staff who had acted quickly and responsibly during the crisis. The community came together, supporting and uplifting each other, showcasing the resilience of the human spirit. Although life eventually returned to normal, the Golden Arches forever held a dual significance for Jake and me. It was a reminder of the night our lives could have taken a tragic turn, but also a symbol of the bond we shared and the preciousness of each moment. For a while, we avoided the place, but a year later, on the anniversary of the incident, we found ourselves back at the same McDonald's. We sat at our usual spot, ordered our favorite meals, and raised our drinks in a silent toast to life, second chances, and the unpredictability of each day. It was our way of reclaiming the place, not as a site of trauma, but as a testament to survival and moving forward. And thus, our McDonald's story came full circle. From joyous memories to near tragedy and finally to a symbol of resilience. Through it all, one lesson stood clear: life's true value often reveals itself in the most unexpected moments. If these chilling tales send shivers down your spine and leave you hungry for more, don't forget to smash that like button. And to become a part of our eerie community, hit subscribe and join the Sacred Screams Sanctum family. Have any spine-tingling experiences of your own? Share them in the comments below, we'd love to hear them. Until next time, keep the lights on and stay safe out there.